You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.
Welcome to the Hot Options Report, your premier source for insight into the fast-moving options market. Each day, we'll track down the products that are dominating the options chains and impacting your trading account, from Nvidia to VIX and everything in between. If it's lighting up the options tape, then you'll find it on the Hot Options Report.
All right, everybody, that music means we are back with your Hot Options Report after the closing bell on Wednesday, February 4th. My name, of course, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Radio Network, your home for all of your favorite options and derivatives podcasts. And of course, if you want to check out all the data we're crunching on the show today and a whole bunch more we don't have time to get to, it is only about a 10-minute show after all. Check out our friends over there at thehotoptionsreport.com. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. You can't beat the data. You can't beat the freaking price. Thehotoptionsreport.com. If you want to add a little more to what your broker is bringing to the table, thehotoptionsreport.com is the place to go. As we get on into our top 10 for today, was it a banger day out there today? You know what? It was respectable. Cost you almost 600,000 contracts to break into the top 10, 599 to be precise. And we get up into the upper echelon of our top 10. We're seeing a little bit more paper up there as well. So I would definitely categorize it as respectable today. Number 10 gets us to our old pal SMCI, aka Super Micro Computer. Haven't talked about them in a while. You know it's earnings season when SMCI is popping in at number 10 today. A rallying a little over $4, about $4.09, or nearly 14% to close at $33.76. So obviously a good number coming out of the announcement from SMCI. Again, putting up 599,000 contracts for our number 10 spot today. The hot option in SMCI, 33,000 of the 33 half calls expiring this Friday. Average price for these, about 91 cents. And so far, you're looking pretty good. Obviously, they closed 26 cents in the money. So you're on the way, listeners. You obviously need SMCI to keep rallying throughout the rest of the session. They got as high as nearly $35 earlier in the session, so maybe that gives you some pause. But we'll keep an eye on these as we keep climbing to our number 9 spot. It's the Amazonians. They were not climbing today, selling off $5.63, or about 2.3% to close $232.99 today, putting up 609,000 contracts for the number 9 spot out there today, listeners. And the hot option in Amazon, 33,000 of the 235 calls. And again, not expiring on Friday. This is one of the names that has those new Monday and Wednesday weeklies as well. So we're talking about 235 calls expiring today. Average price for these, 66 cents. And you know the drill. If you bought these and rode them through the close, not exactly a great trade, but you had some moments. The stock got as high as 238.86 intra-session. So these are obviously looking a lot better earlier in the session. If you sold them, you had to sweat, but you ended up looking pretty good for number 9. As we keep climbing to number 8, this is the name that has not looked good pretty much all year. What are we talking about? It's our old pal, the Monster, aka Strategy. Closing today, $129.09, selling off another $4.17, or a little over 3%. Just an absolutely rough year for them. They're already off 28 handles, or nearly 18% so far year to date. And we're only 1 month in. Obviously, a lot of people looking at MSTR as the bellwether for the crypto market right now, putting up 679,000 contracts for the number 8 spot on our countdown today. And the hot option in MSTR, again, kind of reaching for the stars here. We've got the 150s expiring on Friday. Average price for these, about 28 cents, changing hands 46,000 times. And this was an opening trade. Before you say it's someone bailing on their upside, nope, this was an opening trade. So someone opening nearly 50,000 of the 150s for 28 cents. Obviously, given where we closed, they're probably a little bit more attractive as a sale, or maybe a lot more attractive, but it's up to you. Maybe you like that as a nibble. Either way, we'll keep an eye. Can MSTR even threaten the 150 strike by the end of the week, listeners? We will keep an eye on those for sure. Now, if you're wondering, MSTR does have earnings after the bell tomorrow. So clearly, if you're buying those, that is a big roll of the dice that MSTR can regain some of its lost glory by the end of the week. What do you think, listeners? 150 by the end? It might be a fun little flash poll. Maybe we'll put that out for our audience today as well. Follow us at Options if you're not doing so, if you want to play along. As we keep climbing to the number 7 spot, this is our old pal Micron. They've been on a tear so far this year, and then apparently deciding to give a whole bunch back to the market gods today, selling off nearly 40 handles, or 9.5% today to close at 379.66. So just quite the drubbing here in Micron. Of course, year to date, they're still up 64 handles, or about 20.3%, because it's been an absolutely wild year so far. They kicked off the year at 315, so still a long way to go to threaten that, but obviously not a great day for the Micron Bulls today, putting up 684,000 contracts. For the number 7 spot, the hot option in Micron, again, not one of our Monday and Wednesday names, so we're talking Friday options, nearly 18,000 of the 450s. These are absolutely wild, listeners. The 450s expiring on Friday. Average price for these, 68 cents. Looks like paper was blasting away on these. This was an opening trade, not a closing transaction. Now, before you say that's absolutely insane, the stock did get up to 413 earlier in the session, so still a long way to go to the 4.5 strike, but maybe you think that makes those sound a little bit more tenable. I obviously like it better as a covered call right now, but maybe you like a nibble on the 4.5s by Friday. Can Micron even threaten that level again? We shall see. Micron has been on quite the tear. It would need to go on a tear again if it was going to make the 450 strike relevant by Friday. But then again, crazier things have happened. If we're talking M-Tech names that have come under some heat of late, we're talking about our old pal number 6, Mr. Softy, actually showing some signs of life today, rallying after pretty much a week straight of red closes. Microsoft closing today at 414.19, up nearly $3, or about 0.75%, putting up 727,000 contracts. For the number 6 spot in our countdown today, the hot option in Microsoft, again, one of our Wednesday friends out there, and it was nearly 48,000 of the 420s expiring today. Average price for these, 61 cents. Another opening trade. Now, before you say that's crazy, stock got as high as 419.80, so these were obviously close to the at-the-money strike. These were obviously looking a lot better earlier in the session than by the end of the day. So hopefully you sold these. Looks like a lot of paper was selling these, so looks like they may have worked out for them in the end as we keep climbing and take a huge jump from 6 to 5. We got pretty much 2x for our number 5 spot. What are we talking about? We're talking about AMD selling off hard. We were talking about, I believe it was the 220 puts on our hot options report yesterday, listeners, and they seemed like potentially a long way to go to hit those yesterday. Of course, AMD having earnings after the bell. Yes, it was the 220 puts changing hands 31,000 times yesterday for $2.42. AMD closing yesterday 242.5, so they were a long way out of the money. But as we said on the show yesterday, it seemed like in the after hours the stock was trending in the right direction. Still, you needed a heck of a move to pay off that vol level. Well, guess what? You got a heck of a move in AMD. They cut it off at the knees today, selling off nearly 42 handles, or 17.3%, to close pretty much exactly at the par strike. $200.19 to be precise. So again, those puts that you paid a little over $2 for, listeners, now worth close to $20. So again, kind of like those calls, those 700 calls we saw in Meta last week, a complete home run if you did indeed buy these. The street clearly not liking what they're seeing from this number. What was the hot option today? By the way, AMD, again, putting up nearly 2x our number 6 competitor here. AMD putting up nearly 1.5 million contracts. So an absolutely wild day in AMD post earnings. The hot option in AMD, again, AMD not one of our Monday and Wednesday players, only Friday, and that was your big dog out there today. 40,000 of the par puts. Average price for these nearly $3. So yesterday we were talking about the 220 puts trading for a little bit north of $2. Now nearly $3 for the par puts. What a difference a day makes in AMD, listeners. Absolutely wild stuff. We will definitely keep an eye on these as we keep climbing to our number 4 spot. Another name we've been keeping an eye on for a while. Posted some great numbers. It seemed like all was right in the world of Palantir. Then coming in today, and they pulled the rug out from under them again. Palantir selling off $18.34 or 11.6% to close at $139.54 today. So the market giveth and the market taketh away. Palantir putting up 1.5 million contracts exactly today. And the hot option in Palantir, again, another one of our only Friday candidates, 53,000 of the 140 puts. Again, pretty much the at-the-money put. Average price for these, $4.04. These are obviously looking pretty decent right now. The stock got as low, though, as $135.68. So maybe if you're looking for a little bit of a glass half full, they rebounded off their lows from the session. Still, $4 for these puts. Would you be a buyer or a seller of those, listeners? Hit us up. Let us know as we keep climbing to the number 3 spot. Another name that was climbing hard today. So in a sea of red, Apple showing a whole bunch of green, up $7.01 or 2.6% to close at 276.49 today. So not that far away from their 52-week high of 288.61. So after having a troubling start to the year, to put it mildly, Apple is now green for the year, up a little over 2% or about 5.5 handles. So wild stuff. They crushed it down to 246.70, so almost exactly 30 handles below where it is right now. So quite the turnaround for Apple. Obviously, the earnings number was pretty good. And looks like they got an upgrade from Goldman today on the backs of App Store spending. So either way, more buyers than sellers today, putting up 2.09 million contracts for the fruit company today. And the hot option in Apple, again, another one of our Monday and Wednesday friends now, 147,000 of the 277 halves. These were expiring today, listeners. Average price for these about 67 cents. So you know the drill. If you bought these, unfortunately, if you rode them through the close, not a great trade. If you sold them, you had a sweat. The stock got up to nearly 279 intraday, but that move in the latter half of the session ended up saving you, and you pocketed your roughly 67 cents. An interesting day in Apple. Coming in at number 2 today, another interesting day, another red day in Tesla. We were talking about the par calls not too long ago, the 500 calls. Well, today looks like it's all about the par strike. Stock closing 406.01, so the par strike in the other direction, the 400 level. Stock selling off nearly $16 or 3.75% out there, listeners. Tesla putting up 2.87 million contracts, so a very hot day in Tesla. And interestingly enough, it wasn't the 400 puts or the 400 calls that were leading the dance today. It was 97,000 of the 410 calls, again, expiring today. Average price for these, 94 cents. Looks like paper might have been selling these. This was an opening trade, and that turned out to be the right trade, obviously, if you rode them through the close. You pocketed all of that nearly $1. If you bought them, unfortunately, not a great trade for you. As we keep climbing to number 1, for the bulls, it has not been a great trade for Nvidia so far this week. That continues today. Nvidia selling off another $6.15 or about 3.4% to close 174.19, putting up 3.22 million contracts for the number 1 spot out there today. The hot option in Nvidia, 100 142,000. Of the 177 halves, again, expiring today, Nvidia is pretty much the flagship for the Monday and Wednesday and Friday contracts. So a lot of paper expiring today in Nvidia. Average price for these about 46 cents. So once again, the stock got as high as nearly 180 this morning, 179.58. So these definitely had their moment in the sun. If you sold them, you had to sweat. If you bought them, you had to sweat. You had an opportunity to make money on both, unless you bought them and rode them through the close, in which case you gave up 46 cents. And that is going to do it for your hot options report for a fairly active and mostly blood red Wednesday, February 4th. Remember, if you want to check out all this data or the rest of the options market that we didn't have time to get to on the show, you know where to go, thehotoptionsreport.com. Make sure you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform of choice, because we'll be back again tomorrow with our buddy, the Flow Master. If you like this flow, we talk about a lot of it on the option block. Then we'll be back talking futures options after that on This Week in Futures Options, before we're back after the closing bell tomorrow. Another episode of the Hot Options Report. Stay safe out there, everybody.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network. For more quality options programs, visit www.theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in iTunes and on Google Play.